signed an MOU with Ghana. Ghana has an excess of healthcare workers. We have an MOU with Nigeria. But we got a few Nigerians recently. I think it was about 6 or so.
The decision by Jamaica to end its decades-long medical cooperation program with Cuba is already sending shockwaves through the Caribbean, and now it's getting attention from Washington. A U.S. congressman has publicly praised Jamaica's move, calling it the right step and criticizing Cuba's overseas medical missions, which the United States has long accused of exploiting doctors. But for Jamaica, the bigger question is not politics, it's who replaces the doctors. For nearly 50 years, Cuban medical professionals helped fill critical gaps in Jamaica's healthcare system, particularly in rural hospitals and specialist services. Now, if those doctors are no longer coming, the government will have to look elsewhere. One possibility is India, which already supplies thousands of doctors to countries around the world and has a large pool of English-speaking medical professionals. Another option is Nigeria, where many doctors already work abroad in the UK, Canada, and across the Caribbean. Some experts also point to Ghana, whose medical training system is internationally recognized and whose doctors have experience working overseas. And then there is the Philippines, one of the world's largest exporters of healthcare workers. But replacing Cuban doctors won't be simple. Cuba's program was unique, sending doctors to underserved communities and operating under government-to-government agreements that kept costs relatively low. Any new arrangement could end up costing Jamaica far more. So while Washington may be applauding the decision, the real test will come in the months ahead, when Jamaica's hospitals and clinics must find new doctors to fill the gaps left behind. Because at the end of the day, this is not just about geopolitics. It's about who will take care of Jamaican patients.
I realize that there has been a termination of the program by attrition over the last few years, where contracts were not renewed and Cuban doctors and nurses who went back were never replaced. I don't know if it was understood that we would have reached this point, but have you done a gap analysis to say what are the needs right now? I think you have just under 300 doctors, nurses, biomedical engineers. I'm particularly concerned about the Cuban eye care program, which does more cataract surgery, I believe, than all public hospitals combined island-wide, and is the main source of eye care for Jamaicans who can't afford to go privately and pay the $500,000 for a cataract surgery. What are your plans for filling the gaps in the underserved areas, the community centers, the hospitals where no Jamaicans want to go for social reasons, and we fill them with Cubans? What is going to happen to staffing in those areas now?
Okay. So the first thing I want to say is that your opening statement is incorrect. The Cubans are still with us. We have over 280 approximately, and they're still at their post, still working, including the eye care program. So it's a little exaggeration to say that. We are coming from about just under 350, and the decline has started over the last maybe 6-8 months based on the expiration of those work permits, based on the agreements we had originally for those persons. We have persons here who still have some time. I know what you're referencing. You're referencing the MOU with the Cuban government, which is a very different thing. And that has been the tradition, to negotiate an MOU, which then leads to the engagement of the Cuban healthcare workers. That negotiation, as said in a release today, has been in discussions without an agreement for just under a year. The last point was that the counter proposal or proposal is with the Cuban government. They have not responded over a few months, and the government took the decision not to renew on that basis, having had a series of conversations. However, we have said that the health workers who are here have an opportunity, if they so desire, to engage in individual contracts. So this is not a termination of the desired relationship that we have. It's not a recognition of anything beyond what we have said publicly, that it has been a valuable relationship, and we appreciate it, and it has helped the Jamaican people. And the offer is on the table for the workers who are here to have individual contracts, and that has been said publicly. The conversation continues. I don't know what will happen over the next week or 2 weeks, but suffice to say, the fluid nature of the conversation would not allow you or I to say that the Cubans have gone, because they have not. But there is a discussion taking place. Now, to the issue of the contingencies, even with the Cuban program, the truth is we have always had shortages because of migration and the expanded responsibility of the sick profile and limited training. So we have, over a number of years, been working to expand the cadre of workers, from retention of those we have by improving some of the conditions of work. A lot of it's still a work in progress. You mentioned a number of the capital projects, through compensation review, which gave a fairly substantial increase to a number of workers. And thirdly, through collaboration, through financing, through the Barwin Scholarship, where there are a number of persons studying in the system, with some graduating this year. Can't give the figures, but some of these graduates are going to now be integrated into the system, because the bonding arrangement of 3 years after the scholarship is in effect. And the Barwin Scholarship is a 5-year program, and we're now going into our 3rd year. And some of the persons who got scholarships were studying for less than a year, especially the specialists. So we can provide some further details on that, but that will also help. In addition to that, we have over 100 trainees in various areas of specialization in in-house training, and those will start coming on stream later on this year. I'm told about June or so, which is not too long from now. And then finally, we have sought to do some overseas recruitment. But I have to be fulsome in the response. We're working on some overseas recruitment. Now, the overseas recruitment has taken several forms. We are waiting and possibly should be in a position to sign an MOU with Ghana. Ghana has an excess of healthcare workers. The Ghanaian foreign minister was here 3 weeks ago, I think. That was spoken about publicly. And he did comment that unemployment levels in Ghana is higher, 16% or so. They have healthcare workers who need jobs, including specialists, and they have a similar system to ours. And we have been able to work out an MOU to get some of those workers in. We have an MOU with Nigeria. In fact, we got a few Nigerians recently. I think it was about 6 or so, including educators. And we are working on agreements with Philippines and India, where I visited recently. And then finally, as I said earlier, we had an ad in the paper for recruiting randomly, but targeting the diaspora. We had 136 expressions of interest, some extremely qualified. The point I'm making, member, is that we have a multi-pronged approach to dealing with the HR challenge. It is a challenge because healthcare workers globally are short, and any fallout from the Cuban agreement will, meaning persons going back as opposed to exercising the option to stay, will amplify that problem. And it's a risk, and we understand that, which is why all the other things have to be factored in and are being worked on simultaneously. And we will just have to make it work. And we're not just sitting down and not doing anything. We're doing a number of things.